Watch this number closely. $2.8 trillion. That's how much China processed through their digital yuan in just the first 9 months of 2025. Not through Western banks, not through the dollar system, through a parallel financial infrastructure that doesn't need America's permission, doesn't use America's rails, and doesn't care about America's sanctions. While Washington was debating budget bills and printing another $1 trillion, Beijing quietly built the machine that ends 80 years of dollar supremacy. And here's what should terrify every American. This isn't some distant threat. This isn't theoretical. The replacement is already operational, already scaling, already winning. Right now, 260 million Chinese citizens hold digital yuan wallets. Right now, 26 countries are connected to China's cross-border payment system. Right now, Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil. Malaysia is settling trade in yuan. Brazil is bypassing the dollar entirely. The petrodollar, the foundation of American financial power since 1974, is dying. Not in some future scenario, not the propaganda version. The actual mechanism. How they built a digital currency that processes transactions in 3 seconds when Western systems take 3 days. How they created a payment network that costs 98% less than traditional banking. How they positioned the yuan to become the world's reserve currency while America was too distracted to notice. And most importantly, I'm going to show you why this matters to you personally. Because when the dollar loses reserve status, when the world stops needing dollars for trade, every dollar you own loses 60 to 70% of its purchasing power. Your savings, your retirement, your salary, all denominated in a currency the world no longer needs. This is the largest wealth transfer in human history, and it's happening right now while most Americans have no idea what's coming. Let me start with something most people don't understand about reserve currencies. Being the world's reserve currency isn't just prestigious, it's the foundation of American wealth and power. When your currency is the global reserve, you can print money and export the inflation. You can borrow at rates that would bankrupt any other country. You can run massive trade deficits forever because the world needs your currency just to do business. Think about how this works. Saudi Arabia sells oil to Japan. Japan pays in dollars. Saudi Arabia holds those dollars in U.S. Treasury bonds. To get those dollars, Japan had to sell cars to America. The circle completes. America prints dollars, buys real goods, and foreigners hold the paper. It's the greatest racket in history. America has been running trade deficits for 50 consecutive years. We import 800 billion more than we export every single year. Any other country doing this would collapse. Their currency would become worthless. But America survives because the world needs dollars. When China needs to buy oil, they need dollars. When Europe needs to buy wheat, they need dollars. When anyone wants to do international trade, they need dollars. This creates artificial demand. It means we can print $5 trillion during COVID and export most of the inflation to other countries. It means we can run $2 trillion deficits forever. It means we can maintain a $38 trillion national debt that would destroy any normal economy. The reserve currency status is a cheat code, and China is about to turn it off. Here's what they built. And understand, this wasn't an accident. This was a 15-year plan executed with precision. In 2014, China launched a research project on digital currency. Not blockchain experiments, not crypto speculation. A state-run digital version of the yuan replaced the dollar as the world's trade currency. Most people heard about this and thought it was just another government tech project. They missed what was really happening. China wasn't creating a better payment system. They were building a parallel financial universe. The digital yuan, officially called the ECNY, launched pilot programs in 2020. Shenzhen first, then Beijing, Shanghai, Hainan. By 2023, it went national. By 2025, it's processing nearly $3 trillion annually. But here's the genius. The digital yuan isn't just for Chinese citizens. It's built for international trade. And the architecture is devastating to American power. Traditional international payments work like this. A company in Thailand wants to pay a supplier in Brazil. The Thai bank sends payment instructions through SWIFT, the messaging system controlled by Western banks. The payment goes to a correspondent bank in New York. That bank converts Thai baht to dollars, holds the dollars for 1 to 3 days for clearing, then converts dollars to Brazilian reals and sends to Brazil. Each conversion charges fees. Each delay costs money. Each step requires dollar liquidity. The entire system is built on dollars as the mandatory middleman. And here's the key. America controls SWIFT. When Russia invaded you, that taught every country in the world a critical lesson. If you depend on the dollar system, America can destroy you with a keystroke. China watched this and accelerated everything. The digital yuan eliminates every step. The Thai company opens a digital yuan wallet. The Brazilian supplier opens one too. The payment happens peer-to-peer in 3 seconds. No correspondent banks, no SWIFT, no dollars, no American permission. And the cost is nearly zero. Where Western banks charge 3 to 7% for international transfers, the digital yuan charges 0.1%. Where Western systems take 3 days, the digital yuan takes 3 seconds. This is the name most Americans have never heard, and it's the weapon that kills dollar dominance. Bridge is a multilateral central bank digital currency platform. It connects the central banks of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the UAE directly. No intermediaries, no correspondent banks, no SWIFT, no dollars. It achieved minimum viable product status in 2024. That means it's operational. Real central banks are using it for real transactions right now. In September 2025, Bridge processed over $22 billion in cross-border transactions. That's $22 billion in trade that completely bypassed the dollar system. And it's scaling exponentially. By 2024, 26 central banks had joined as observers. Saudi Arabia, France, South Korea, Egypt, all watching, all preparing to join. Because the advantages are over. With 2 countries, there's 1 trading pair. With 10 countries, there are 45 trading pairs. With 26 countries, there are 325 trading pairs. Each trading pair is a transaction flow that used to require dollars and now doesn't. This is how reserve currencies die. Not through war, through obsolescence. The dollar isn't being attacked, it's being bypassed. And once enough trade flows through alternative systems, dollar demand collapses. Then the real crisis begins. Now let me show you what's already happened. Because while American media ignores this, the global realignment is accelerating. March 20, the SCO is China and Russia's answer to NATO. It represents 40% of global population and 25% of global GDP. Saudi Arabia, America's closest Middle East ally for 80 years, is now formally aligning with China. December 2023, Argentina announces it will pay for Chinese imports in yuan instead of dollars. Argentina owes the IMF $44 billion. They can't access dollars, so they're trading in yuan. One more country bypassing the dollar system. April 2024, Brazil and China complete their first direct. These 10 countries represent 46% of global population. They're creating alternative payment systems explicitly to reduce dollar dependence. Each of these is a headline that lasted 1 day in Western media. Each of these is a structural shift in the global financial system. When Saudi Arabia accepts yuan for oil, the petrodollar is broken. That system, created in 1974 when Nixon promised military protection in exchange for oil pricing in dollars, gave America 50 years of exorbitant privilege. It's ending, not because China invaded anyone, because China offered a better system, and countries are choosing it. Here's what this looks like in numbers. In 2001, the dollar represented 73% of global foreign exchange reserves. And here's the trap America built for itself. The entire U.S. economy is structured around reserve currency status. We import $3.8 trillion in goods annually. We export $3 trillion. The $800 billion difference is the trade deficit. We pay for it by printing dollars. If the world stops needing dollars, we can't run that deficit anymore. We'd have to actually produce enough to pay for what we consume. That means massive restructuring. Factory construction that takes decades, supply chain development that takes years, economic pain that no politician will accept. So instead, they'll print more. Try to maintain dollar dominance through force, and accelerate the exact crisis they're trying to avoid. Let me show you the specific mechanism that makes this unstoppable. It's not just about technology, it's about debt. The United States owes $38 trillion. They buy it because they need dollars for trade. When they don't need dollars anymore, they stop buying bonds. Supply and demand. If buyers disappear, prices fall. When bond prices fall, yields rise. If the average interest rate on U.S. debt goes from 3.4% to 6%, that's an additional $1 trillion in annual interest payments. The government would have to cut everything else or print even faster. Either option destroys the currency. This is the debt trap. We need reserve status to maintain borrowing. We need borrowing to avoid economic collapse. But maintaining reserve status requires fiscal discipline we abandoned 50 years ago. China sees this. They're not attacking the dollar. They're waiting for it to collapse under its own weight while building the alternative. And the alternative is ready. The digital yuan isn't just a currency, it's a complete financial ecosystem. Wallets, payment rails, central bank coordination, trade finance, everything. By the time the dollar crisis hits, China will be the only. When reserve currency status shifts, it's not gradual, it's sudden. The British pound was the global reserve from 1850 to 1950. Everyone thought it was permanent. The sun never sets on the British Empire. The pound is backed by the Royal Navy and the City of London. Then World War II bankrupted Britain. By 1950, the pound was finished. Reserve status transferred to the dollar in 1 decade. But here's what happened to British citizens. In 1945, 1 pound bought 4.3s. By 1950, 1 pound bought 2.80. By 1967, 2.40s. By 1980, 2.30. Today, $1.27. That's 97% loss in purchasing power over 80 years. But the real damage happened in the first decade. 1945 to 1955. That's when savings were destroyed, when pensions became worthless, when the middle class was annihilated. The same will happen to the dollar, not over 80 years, faster. Because everything moves faster now. Information, capital, trade, all instantaneous. When the crisis hits, it will be a stampede. Central banks will dump treasury bonds, the dollar will collapse, inflation will explode. Your savings, denominated in dollars, will lose 60 to 70% of purchasing power in 5 to 10 years, maybe faster. Everything priced in dollars will surge. Food, energy, housing, all skyrocketing in nominal terms. But not because they're worth more, because the dollar is worth less. Your salary, if it's fixed, becomes poverty wages. Your retirement account, if it's in bonds or cash, evaporates. Your home, if you own it, maintains some value. But property taxes surge because they're calculated on nominal values. You could own your home free and clear and still lose it to taxes. This is what currency collapse looks like. And it's not theoretical. It happened to Britain. It happened to Germany. It happened to Argentina 7 times. It's happening to Venezuela right now. And the United States countries are signing yuan trade deals today. The only question is when critical mass is reached. When enough trade flows through alternative systems, that dollar demand collapses. That threshold is probably 30 to 40% of global trade. Right now, about 88% of international transactions involve dollars. When that drops to 60%, the crisis begins. When it drops to 50%, it accelerates. We're at 88% today. We were at 92% in 2020. We're losing about 1% per year. Simple math says we reach critical threshold by 2030 to 2035. But this assumes linear decline. History shows these transitions accelerate. The pound collapsed faster than anyone predicted. The Soviet ruble collapsed in 900 days. Speed increases as confidence breaks. We could hit crisis threshold by 2028. Maybe 2027, maybe tomorrow if there's a triggering event. A war, a debt ceiling disaster, a major bank failure, any shock could accelerate the timeline. The Treasury knows, the Federal Reserve knows, the State Department knows, and they're doing nothing effective to stop it. They're focused on domestic politics, on printing more money, on maintaining power today at the expense of tomorrow. They're not preparing alternatives. They're not reducing debt. They're not rebuilding manufacturing. They're accelerating toward the cliff while arguing about pronouns and spending another trillion. This is not leadership. This is denial. And you will pay the price. China spent 15 years preparing, building digital infrastructure, signing trade agreements, accumulating gold, positioning the yuan. They saw this coming and prepared. America saw it coming and printed more money. That choice determines the outcome. So what do? But you can reduce overexposure. If 100% of your wealth is in dollar-denominated assets, cash, bonds, money markets, you're going to be destroyed. Move 20 to 30% into hard assets. Physical gold, physical silver, not ETFs, not mining stocks, physical metal you control, real estate that generates income, productive land, rental properties in strong markets, commodities, energy, agriculture, industrial metals through diversified funds. These maintain purchasing power when currencies collapse. Second, eliminate dollar-denominated debt, especially variable rate debt. When currency crisis hits, interest rates spike. If you have variable rate mortgage, car loans, credit cards, the payments will surge while your income collapses in real terms. Pay off high interest debt immediately. If you have fixed rate mortgage at low rates, keep it. That debt inflates away, but variable debt destroys you. Third, develop skills that create value regardless of currency regime. Build community, relationships with people who have resources, land, tools, knowledge. When institutions fail, networks matter. This sounds extreme. It's not. This is how people survived every currency collapse in history. Those who held paper lost everything. Those who held real assets, real skills, real relationships survived. You're watching the preview. China launching the digital yuan globally. Countries bypassing dollars. Oil trading in yuan. Reserve currency status eroding. The pattern is clear. The timeline is compressed. The outcome is mathematical.